pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop. We are back this week with your Purple Pants podcast. Pit stop coverage of our summer watch of Amazing Race season 5. I'm so excited to be joined by the ever so beautiful and talented, the winner of Amazing Race season 29, Miss Brooke Camhigh. How are you?
That's me. Hi. And I'm not alone today. We have decided, because we have had such a wonderful outpouring from people who are watching along with us with season 5, that this was Bryce's doing. Some of them are my doing. This one was Bryce's. Have brought on the guru of all things reality TV. What? Have I oversold it? Did I oversold
No,
it?
Sell it more. The man.
The myth. The legend.
The Michael to my spring bloom. We have Mike Bloom on our podcast, and I think it's actually your first time on the Purple Pants podcast, Mike. Oh my God.
This is, you never forget your first. The cherry has been popped.
Is there a cherry? Can I pop it?
There we go. And I am here to hump and ride, baby. You picked the perfect episode to have me on.
We're done. Where do you go from hump
there
and
was also at one point where I think it was a twin pointed as like, oh, I see a shaft, and I'm like, how can you outdo this episode? They somehow, the Tower of Cairo, like, you just look at it. This was a very coded episode. Who'd have thought their first trip to Egypt would have been just so sex-laden?
This is the first trip to Egypt. I like this. I normally have to point out, like, this is the first this is the first thing we did that, blah, 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 boop. But I don't think I'm the expert on anything today.
No,
please. I'm just here to, like, look at my notes and see what happened.
We can share the blobbity bloop, if you will.
Okay.
I'm happy to co-own the blobbity bloop for this episode.
I've been looking for someone to share the blobbity bloop, and I'm happy it's you. So here we go.
Before we get into episode 5, I just have to say, great episode, but also some new people have entered my chat of pissing me off this episode. We have some regular offenders, but now we have some people that I thought I liked that are kind of pissing me off. And so
if you say the bowling moms, I'm not going to be happy.
I didn't say that. I didn't know.
Okay,
Linda Karen.
No,
okay.
I told Bryce beforehand when he said this, I think I know who it is and what it is, and I'll be intrigued to see if my prediction's correct.
Yes.
Well, the thing is this, everybody else who's on here has already pissed him off. So I'm trying to think, with the exception of Charlotte and Myrna, and I don't think they're ever going to do anything to piss him off.
Well, Myrna is on my list this week. Okay, so
agree to disagree. That's fine. Nope. I will say it again. The opinions of one Bryce Isaiah do not represent the opinions of all people on the Purple Pants podcast.
Marshall and Lance, as always, are on my list. And okay, but then I give Marshall a break.
Those opinions do satisfy the opinions of all the people.
Marshall's knee is on my good list this week, okay? But
why? For not doing its job?
Yes, okay. It's called karma. And I just want to
wait, sir.
I just want to drive by Marshall's knee and stuff and roll my window down and say, bitch. And
yeah.
It's one of the best moments of the episode. And the thing is this, like, people are reaching out being like, can I come on and co-host maybe like episode 8 with you? Because 8's a really good one. I am very excited that Mike Bloom is all, let's do 5. 5 is a good one. And they only get better. Like, there is not a weak episode in this season. And so here we go. Unless you still want to talk more about the people you hate, which I'm always.
No, don't put the sled before the Hebrews when it comes to pulling out the blocks for the pyramids. I'm super pumped to get into this because I think one of, like, first off, Amazing Race 5. Listen, I'm a bit of a basic bitch when it comes to, like, my season opinions. It's my favorite season. I think it's one of the most perfect seasons of reality TV in general. But one of the reasons why I want to come
to present company excluded, perhaps it's your favorite season, or it ties for your favorite season.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, season 29 is number 0 in my heart.
Thank you. I'll take it.
It's in an echelon, an untouchable tier. And
yes,
then
you may now continue to be part of this podcast.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again, I'm here for the blobbity blue, but I think that season 5, like this episode, particularly the destinations. Now, look, I'm not someone who watches Amazing Race necessarily for the travel or for the sightseeing, but just like the stark images of them going to snow-covered Russia and then traveling to the deserts of Egypt and doing the pit stop at the frickin' Sphinx, that alone is one of the go-to examples I go to as to like what the Amazing Race is capable of. And honestly, especially nowadays when Amazing Race tends to kind of stay in the same locations and go to places with the same different backgrounds, I'm like, remember when we went from Russia to Egypt? Why can't we do that again?
Remember when the pit stop was the actual Sphinx, like an actual wonder of the world, and not, that guy's house? Like it was like there are 7 wonders of the world. Wait, the pyramids or the Sphinx, or are they both one of them? Anyway, one and or both, don't at me, are actual wonders of the world. Like, no offense to some of the more recent seasons, but it's like, what was the one with the reality TV people where they were in Tokyo and it's like climb a bouncy house and like slide down? That's not this. This is, I'm a purist, and this is it.
You know who probably would agree with you? I won't spoil, but the team that does cross over from this season into said season 31 and had to climb that little bouncy house.
Wait, was season 31 a returning player season?
Yeah, so it was
I
Survivor versus Big Brother versus Amazing Race.
Oh.
Do not look up season 31.
I won't, but that's the season Eliza and Corinne played.
Yep.
And Brett and
Chris.
And Chris played. Okay. This season 5 of Amazing Race, did it win an Emmy? Do we know?
I don't think so. I think 6 and 7 might have been like the first year it was nominated. I mean, obviously The Amazing Race was like the original show to clean up at the Primetime Emmy Awards when it comes to reality TV, but I need to remember the first year that it won.
I believe it actually was Emmy nominated in 5, only because I remember seeing pictures on a red carpet
of
with
them
Phil and Charlotte and Myrna and the bowling.
Oh,
I'm guessing that was the Emmy.
No, you know what? It did win. So it actually was nominated first in 2003, which was seasons 3 and 4, and so it won in 2004 for seasons 4 and 5.
Look at you, Bryce.
Look at me. Knowing something about. Well, I only thought of it because, like, when you actually described going from like the snowy background of Russia to Egypt and like the Nile River, I'm like, that actually is like the imagery is really aesthetically beautiful. Although I feel like I am watching it on a VCR player in my grandmom's basement, and the TV is black and white. But
and 4 feet thick. I got it.
I could get into it, but yeah, like. Let's get into this episode because I have a lot of thoughts.
Okay, Mike, you want to kick us off, or?
Oh, sure. I mean, I don't want to take responsibility here.
All right, let me do the thing that we do, which is they go from Russia to one of the 7 wonders of the world, the Great Pyramids in Egypt. Like Mike said, first time in Egypt. We have the 12-hour pit stops. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams left. Leaving at 9:11 in the morning. We have Chip and Kim. Half hour later, Colin and Christy. About 20 minutes after that, Marshall and Lance. 3 minutes later, Charlotte and Myrna. And then at 11:50 a.m., Mike, you should know, it's not Brandon and Nicole. It's Brandon, Nicole, Jesus, and also Satan, because sometimes they do things that are bad. So they are a team of 4.
And if you ask Colin, that's also including the prodigal son as well, right? Jesus Christ.
They're a team of 5. And then you have Linda and Karen at 12:15 and Cammie and Carly bringing up the rear at 12:50. So there's about 3.5 hours, between team 1 and team 7. So the teams need to take a train 20 miles back to St. Petersburg, Russia, and find the Hermitage Museum. They have to find the Return of the Prodigal Son, the artwork by Rembrandt, and get their next clue from the curator. There are 3 million. I actually think that's accurate. I don't think I'm exaggerating. Pieces of art in this museum. Unless I was just being snarky and wrote down 3 million, but I actually think that he said 3 million, which seems ridiculous.
How do you fit 3 million pieces of art in that building?
It might just be like one little like.
Are they stamps?
Right.
Look, I don't know. I just listen to what the TV tells me, and I write things.
I will also say this is my first time watching Amazing Race 5 in a while. I forgot how like old school Phil talked like he was on Quaaludes. Like he's like, last time on The Amazing Race, Chip and Kim had a great day. I don't know if Phil has just become naturally more animated over the years, but he took things so seriously with his turtlenecks back in the day.
We were joking that like he probably was like wanting to keep his job and just be like the straight man. And then he just started having fun with it. And he's like, I'm not losing my job. I'm the face of the show. So he just started having a lot more fun.
I've got tenure.
Right.
He got tenured. And then he started, drinking on the job. Not really. Not really. I love Phil. Big fan.
Chip and Kim were cracking me up this episode when they were like, had to find the prodigal son photo. And like, Chip's like, we're devout Christians. We really love the Lord. And that gave us a leg up because we knew what to look for in the, like, if I feel like if I was an atheist and I heard the prodigal son, I would imagine it's someone embracing, like, a father embracing a son. So when Chip was like, yeah, we're devout Christians, like we got a leg up on, I was like, I don't really know if that really helps. But
also, I'm a Jew. I would have just gone to somebody in the museum and been like, hey, where's this piece of art? I don't think you need to be a devout Christian, Catholic, whatever you want to find this piece of art. You just have to be mouthy enough to walk up to someone and say, hey, can you help me? So...
Or you can take the Marshall and Lance approach because they just said, hey, we'll just point at everything.
Yeah.
And until like
there's no penalty for pointing at every single all 3 million paintings.
I didn't say paintings, I said artwork.
But yeah, I will admit, this season came out when I was 15 years old. So this is how I learned what the story of the prodigal son was. Because
me too. Totally 15 years old.
I was going to say, suffice it to say, I was not in a lot of Bible study classes, as we might get into with how the pyramids were built. And so I haven't really studied any sort of parables. So I had also misremembered. I thought the prodigal son was Jesus. So maybe I was following Colin's lead, who was just in true Colin fashion, so convinced in the moment that he was right, only to be wrong.
Colin is always so right. I mean, because it's always so wrong. Like, it's just Bryce. I can't wait. I'm waiting for the moment when he watches like 8 and I get the phone call because Bryce likes to watch. I don't think this is sharing too much. He watches stuff late at night and he will text me and be like, whoa. And sometimes my phone will ring. I'll be like, oh, he just watched an episode. Matt, pause the TV. I gotta talk to Bryce. And it is so great. I love when you are experiencing things for the first time.
I will admit I got a skosh of that from Bryce, but I might be asked to get added onto this text thread because there's nothing more that I love as like I guess a reality TV guru, which is very, very kind for you to say, than like to watch other people watch things for the first time and experience it. And yeah, season 5 contains a lot of those types of things. And like you said, Brooke, it does feel like, we had some chaotic stuff from the very beginning with freaking Jim busting his leg open on the opening pier with everything falling apart with Allison and Donnie. But it does feel like starting when we travel to Egypt, things get really wild this season.
Yeah, I mean, the competitive level is nuts. The airport drama is like chef's kiss perfect. Like the rule changes. I wish the airport rule change never changed but it was just such a waste of money. But it does feel like there is a very significant like beginning section, middle section, and end game to season 5. And we've hit the middle section, and it is just like the meat and potatoes of the season. And Bryce, hold on. This is great.
I'm holding on because I don't even really like the groupings of the groupings that I see at this point at episode 5. But maybe somebody can help a brother out. So, I mean, I don't know.
So they're going to the museum. Everyone is in a cab except Charlotte and Myrna, who can't find one. So they walk the entire way to the museum. But the thing is this, they don't complain. They're just like, oh, we're here. We walked it, I guess. Marshall and Lance complain, about everything because the world is against them. And can they just go home? They just need to go home. What? I can say that. They're not going to watch this.
I feel
and
like
if they do, whatever.
I wonder what happened to them.
I've been doing a segment of where are they now when people get eliminated, but as of this point, they have not been eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where they are now.
Okay.
I wonder if they still have that pizza shop.
Brooke, watch out for Brooke on LinkedIn, people.
It's true. I found Donnie on LinkedIn. That's how I found Donnie.
Oh my God.
I think he lives in Nashville. Okay. Somebody else take over. I feel like I'm talking a lot. Okay.
Well, so we should say that, I think, unfortunately, the way that things start within like 3.5 hours of each other is only going to get worse as the episode goes along, because there's 5 trains to St. Petersburg in general. Teams are
6.
Getting separated. 6 for 7 teams, basically. Yeah. And so eventually everyone will get there, but Linda and Karen end up falling behind when them and the twins are on the last train, and the twins get out ahead of them, and it all culminates at the airport. And yeah, Bryce, I am super intrigued to get your thoughts on this, because you are mainly couched in the world of modern day Amazing Race, where flights are booked ahead of you, or sometimes you take a freaking charter plane with the Amazing Race stuck on the side of it to another country. And this, I think, is maybe some of the peak airport drama we've had in the show. There will be other seasons where there is actual arguments that happen at the airport. But when fans talk about the appeal of teams being able to book their own flights, what happens here between Colin and Christy and Charlotte and Myrna and even the bowling moms, this is what they're talking about.
Yeah, this is great. And I know that everyone has strong opinions about Colin, and sometimes he's not always right, sometimes he's always wrong. But after they got done at the museum and not going to the airport and going to a travel agency, I was like, okay, Colin, you guys are in it. And it's I love how Colin and it's Colin and Christy, right?
Christy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love how when they're at the travel agent, they're talking to them we need the fastest plane. We need the fastest plane. And then as a stark difference to Chip and Kim, they're at the airport. They're at the wrong spot. Then they got to go to the other spot. And then Chip's we just need the fastest one to get to Egypt. It's Chip, I need for you to put a chip into your step. And so this kind of starts my first annoyance, because here come Marshall and Lance, and Chip and Kim have to tell them everything.
Mm-hmm. This is what I thought it was going to be. I had a hunch. I'm I think Bryce is going to be a little pissed that Chip's a little bit too charitable this episode.
He is. And then it's Marshall and Lance, they got to report back to the boss, which is Colin and Christy, because when they see Colin and Christy, why do y'all have to stroke his ego? And Marshall's yeah, from the information I've seen, you guys got the best ticket. And then you can just see Colin's eyes went from, you got the best tickets I've seen. They went, I was oh, I feel like Colin has awoketh, because I just was okay, we're going somewhere now. But I really do love the fact that there are multiple ways to get tickets. And if you are complacent, you're going to get left behind. Or someone can I just love the fact that when they get to a layover, they're running to the counter to get new tickets. And if y'all know that y'all could do that, because y'all have done it before, Brandon and Nikki.
And Jesus and Satan.
Satan. So why, when y'all get to the damn airport, aren't y'all okay, sorry, let me just...
Why don't you just buy every ticket? I mean, yeah, it's true. Why don't go looking at another counter, just buy them and then buy another one. And then buy another one.
Again, this was 2004 when they were allowed to do that. Yeah, I think that I would love to see Colin in Disney World with his family, because he seems like that guy that would have this strict itinerary, know all the shortcuts through the parks, be able to like rule over Genie Pass or whatever it's called, like a king.
Fast pass?
This guy,
I use the fast pass. Like, I don't see a problem with that. I am Colin in that respect with my wristband.
Exactly.
And we have to be here between 2:50 and 3:05. And I'm riding this 6 times. And I'm riding as a single rider as opposed to with my husband. Because you know what? I don't need to sit next to him on the roller coaster. The single rider line, there's never a line for single riders. Always take the single rider line. You heard it here first. That's a Disney tip. If you don't care about sitting next to your friend, single rider line, and you'll probably end up next to each other. Anyway.
But did your friend care about sitting next to you?
Right.
My husband isn't there. It's fine. Who cares? No. Who needs to have me screaming in their face while we're riding, Expedition Everest and going backward? Who cares? Single rider line. It's how you get the most for your money.
Okay.
There we go. I didn't realize I'd be getting theme park tips, but I am so elated that I came on now for even more reasons.
Disney, now you knew. Okay, so this is one of the times, Bryce and Mike, but Mike knows, that a team, with the exception of season 1, and maybe Mike, you know the answer to this, because in season 1, a team was left so far behind they didn't even get to the final city. Mm-hmm. When people were crossing the finish line, they weren't eliminated, because the first elimination comes in the next episode of this season. It's a first. But Colin and Christy, because they get to, where are they? They get to Paris. They go to a desk and they find a faster connection. They now have a 12-hour lead. They have an entire rest stop lead over all of the other teams, and good on them. So good, because they can do whatever they want when they get there. They have so much time. They can basically just
sleep outside.
They can go sightseeing if they wanted to.
They could go sightseeing. This is, did anyone use a fast forward earlier in the season, or is this the first time we get to see a fast forward?
Yeah, so this is the first time. So Bryce, give me your reaction, because I think this is your first experience with a fast forward. We saw one in your season, Brooke, but I feel like that's the last time we've seen one in modern day Amazing Race.
This close to taking it.
I feel like we seen a fast forward last season or the season before.
So that's a little different. So that was the express pass, which allows you to pass one task. Fast forward is
you just pass everything.
You pass everything, go directly to the pit stop.
So I was like, okay, I'm excited. I didn't want Colin and Christy to get it, but I also thought it was great. But I also was like, it does kind of put you so far ahead, and I feel like
you would think so, and yet there has been one time where a fast forwarding team actually went home, and on my season, the fast forwarding team came in third. So it doesn't always work out for you.
Yeah.
But in this case, 12 hours, I think you have a pretty safe bet that you're going to win the leg.
And it's really interesting sort of placing it in Amazing Race history, because believe it or not, Bryce, in the first 4 seasons, fast forwards were available every single leg. And basically, it was sort of like, it was like a shot in the dark on Survivor. Like, you could use it once. And sometimes multiple teams would go for it at the same time. But due to shrinking budgets, basically, for season 5, because The Amazing Race was doing pretty badly in the ratings for its first 4 seasons. And so they shrunk things down, including, I think, the number of legs, the number of teams, and they only did 2 fast forwards in the race. Wow. So it's become a little bit less.
Line tickets for 1,800 places. So
exactly.
Really, and the most expensive thing they kept doing. But
that's why they have everyone they took their money at the end of the night. They're like, no, give us money back. We need stuff for the budget now.
Right.
It was interesting though with this fast forward though. Like, I know that the first Phil elimination is coming up, but I also felt like, in my opinion, this was the first. Like, y'all had Phil up at the crack of dawn. Like, he was at that pit stop for a long time that day because Colin and Christy got there so early.
Yeah. Did you know, Bryce, in the first season of The Amazing Race, Phil only showed up to eliminate the last place team?
So they would just get to the mat and Phil wasn't even there.
Yeah, it would be the pit stop greeter. It would be like some person from the local culture being like, "Oh, welcome to Egypt. You're team number 1."
And when did they start? And then the second season, he was there.
He was there every time, yeah.
So they amended his job description. They was like, no, we actually need Phil to be on set.
Yeah, listen, we're flying you out. You're hanging around anyway. Why don't you just stand by this bath mat and talk to all the teams? Do your job, Phil.
It is funny when you're on The Amazing Race and Phil is on your flight, because every so often, you're in the front of the pack when the producers and the host are on your flight. Happened to us I believe twice.
Are they allowed to purchase main cabin tickets, or they
No,
have
they
to
don't sit with us. No. Nope. They don't sit amongst the peasants. Okay, so Colin and Christy are eons ahead of everybody else. The fast forward is make your way to, is it Pharaohic? To the Pharaoh's village, whatever. Find a marked sarcophagus.
Where though? Where do we find the sarcophagus?
I love you so much.
Sarcophagus sounds like some sort of venereal disease.
Find the snuffleupagus. Take it through the village on a ferry across the Nile. You're on the Nile, and give it to the priest to get the fast forward. What is your question?
My question was because rule number 637 that Brooke Kamha says the most important thing about the Amazing Race is read your clue. Mm-hmm. And Colin and Christy are arguing about where the sarcophagus is, and Colin is like, trust me, babe. Trust me. It's across the Nile. And Christy's like, I'm pretty sure the clue says it's outside.
You know, she was right.
Would you argue that Colin was in denial about where it was?
Where's my bell?
There we go. Oh, I feel whole again.
Bryce got me a bell for Christmas one year, and it makes me so happy. But it's sitting over there.
Feels better than Colin getting an early flight.
The bell. Don't you feel good when you get the bell? I feel so validated in life when Bryce rings the bell at me. So, whatever. Okay.
But again, shout out to Colin and Christy. I'm like, okay, I'm waiting to see the crazy Colin because thus far it just looks like he is just always thinks he's right. But I'm like, okay, I'm not mad. They're in the lead.
Yeah. Like, there's no question about it. So for everybody else who doesn't take the fast forward, they have to make their way to the Giza Pyramid Complex at the Giza Plateau and find the path marked by yellow rocks to the Osiris, shaft. It is a very sexual episode for the next clue. Okay. So the yield is here. No one used it. They didn't air it. Yield. Unrelated side note that I just thought of, so I want to say it. I'm sorry if my thing is lagging. I feel a little laggy. Bryce, in the newest season of Amazing Race, I don't know who wins. I don't know where they go, except I only know where they finish. I have found out that, or word on the streets, and it is, you may have seen it now because you are now part of the Facebook group. Every leg of the new season has some twist. There is a fast forward. There is an intersection, which you've never seen. There is a yield. There is I don't know all of the things, but every twist that the Amazing Race has ever had is in one per leg for the next season. I believe, if I have it correct. Mike will know.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've heard as well. I mean, I love the idea in terms of, listen, I'm a social strategy head. I know that not everyone is necessarily coming to the Amazing Race to watch like gameplay or people's methodologies through things, but I think it's fun to throw these things in to see exactly what happens. I will hold my tongue until we see it. That could it be a little too much? Could we be looking like New Era Survivor of, okay, here's the next episode. Here's this next thing that you have to deal with. But listen, as someone that loves the Amazing Race and kind of wishes they'd bring back all these twists from seasons past, I'm happy whenever they unearth it. I mean, I was salivating when they brought back the freaking Express Pass 2 seasons ago. So that really whet my appetite.
I will say, as someone who's been pitching a all-winners season, like a victory lap season of The Amazing Race, I think it would have been very cool to use it for that. Like bring back all the gimmicks for the winners. But now I feel like I'm asking for it too much. But winter season.
I agree with you though, Brooke. Like, because this is only season 37 of Amazing Race that they're like filming. Like, it's not really like monumental, but I'm excited. It sounds amazing. But what's the intersection? Because
Oh yeah,
okay.
So it's where
go ahead.
when a team and another team love each other very much, they work together.
Ow! Sorry. Because the last time I remember it, the teams who ended up working together hated each other.
Yeah, so basically it's a task where 2 teams partner up and work together for the foreseeable future. Could be 1 task, could be 2 tasks, but it's basically a task that 4 people have to complete now instead of just 2 people.
So is it like the detour or the roadblock, or is it an addition to the roadblock and the detour?
Addition. Or, I mean, it could be an intersection for the detour, and then you choose together which side to do. But it's basically like, if you and I are a team and we show up at the intersection box, we can't do anything until another team shows up. Like, we have to wait. And I'd be curious, especially in a season like this, if you had like Marshall and Lance there, or if you had Colin and Christy or Charlotte and Myrna or whatever there, and Marshall and Lance showed up, would you be like, I'll wait for the next team? Because, and I don't even mean it like from a feelings about them personally, but like his knee is so messed up at this point that he's a liability physically, and not knowing what you need to do next. I don't know. Has a team ever? I don't think so. But
but then what if you pass on Marshall Lance? Then who comes next is freaking hobbling Linda and Karen. Like, oh great, pick your poison: the bum knee or the bum ankle.
Linda and Karen, 10 out of 10.
Linda and Karen all day though, right? You're right. Yeah, taking them all day.
10 out of 10. Okay, where are we? Okay, so the shaft. Charlotte and Myrna get to the tower second.
Okay, let me. Can I interject my second annoyance of the season and the episode? First of all, shout out to
Bryce, you have problems with the shaft?
I mean, no problems with the shaft. Okay, go. I don't know how.
I believe. Just go to Osiris and hawk Tua. Right, that was the symbol of it.
It was, and the shaft goes deep. But Myrna and mind you, I'm about to say Myrna and Shmyrna, but my girls.
The next thing you can't help. Yes, it comes from Marshall and Lance, but you can't help but think Myrna and Shmyrna.
That's the only thing.
But we say it with love. We say it with just admiration and love here.
Absolutely. And I was so happy that they got there 15 minutes early because they had the foresight to sneak off and get an earlier flight. Now, when we get to this detour.
And sorry, not to interrupt too much, Bryce. It's very like Tony, in my opinion, of like, while everyone's sleeping, I'm going to sneak out and get new tickets and I'm going to fly away and nobody's going to know me.
And they're like, when should we go to the gate? We got to wait till they sleep. That was like, again, I love this like sneakiness that we don't really see in the new era of Amazing Race. But when Myrna and Shmyrna get there and it's time to do the detour, Myrna's like, I can't do it. I'm claustrophobic. Girl, well, what have you done at this point? Is like the part that like, now mind you are my girl and you stand up, but girl.
No, all you need to remember is Charlotte carrying the big ass Flintstones hunk of ribs on her back to remember like what the team dynamic is like.
And then Myrna putting it on her shoulder.
Sorry, can we just not overlook the fact that at this roadblock, the one line clue is who's up for going down? Like they just really triple down on the innuendo in Egypt. Like it's a lot.
We know the story of Cleopatra, right? It feels very applicable to the Egyptian culture.
Oh.
Sure. Yes. And still, it's too much sexual. Okay. So anyway, you have to climb down a long ladder into the depths of the Osiris shaft, 140 feet below sea level. They did some scary stuff.
Yeah.
And
this is a lot.
Search for in the pool of water for a satchel of puzzle pieces and carry them back up to the surface. Charlotte, with no problem, because girl does not complain, is like, I'm on this, I got this, whatever. And I think you can just tell that this is sort of their dynamic in life. Charlotte's like, oh, Myrna, okay, I'll do it. And she just goes down, does it without a problem. They do the puzzle pieces, they don't put it on top of their map, so they get a little confused and whatever. Brandon does it because Nicole doesn't do anything. Chip does it.
I thought Nicole did it because Brandon hates. Oh no, Brandon did it because I thought he hated crevices and didn't want to do it.
This whole episode is just NC-17. Chip does it, has no problem. I want to say Cammy, but I can't tell them apart. Comes up as Karen is about to go down, but the twins can't figure out the puzzle pieces, and so Karen goes down there. Nobody's doing the puzzle, right? And then Lance does it, but he doesn't have a problem. Yeah.
Did the twins really just say the puzzle? We just gonna figure it out on our own.
I mean, Bryce, do you not remember how they got to the pit stop a couple of episodes ago? They never take the path that's in front of them. It's always about the road not traveled. They're not even overthinking. They're just not thinking.
Right. I was just like, how you just got a map? You just gonna point and say like, this is where we need to go. Well, how do I get there? I don't know. We've got to figure it out. Like they were making me so nervous. But I have to say, in this moment, because mind you, I had to think for the twins kind of pissed me off. In this moment, when they was just like, F it, we're short for time, let's go. I was like, okay, check for the twins in the right direction.
All right.
I'm warming up.
34 minutes into episode 5, Bryce finally has something positive to say about Cammy and Carly. Clock the time, 34:13.
Just that. But I was like, okay, I like the daredevil in them. That's it.
I mean,
is it daredevil or is it just a little bit of laziness and a little bit of we'll follow other people there, we'll figure it out.
But it's weird though, because like this is old school Amazing Race. Like they could have just wandered off into the desert. In the first season, they went to Tunisia and they just had them openly driving through the Sahara, and teams just got lost in the middle of the desert. There's a good chance Cammy and Carly would have never been seen again.
And that's crazy. And especially if the same camera crew that was working with Danny and Angie last season was with them, then they would be gone.
Okay, behind the scenes. So the camera crew and sound, you have a sound person and a camera person in your car. They will never tell you if you're going wrong. They just won't. However, we were in, I want to say Panama, because we drove the entire length of the country, and we were actually told, stop, you can't go in there, because we turned our car into a correctional facility, and there were people with snipers.
Oh.
They were like, this ain't it, back up. Like,
yeah. So if it puts them in danger, like I remember in season 4, they went to South Korea, and for some reason, one clue was at the demilitarized zone, and one team basically drove into North Korea by accident.
I love this.
And we never saw them again.
Hearing all of these stories make me so nervous that I'm glad that Maya and Rohan weren't playing at this point in time, because
imagine them at the DMZ doing like the 30-point turn.
They would have been stuck.
Bring them back.
Okay, so then I love Myrna and Shmirna, my ladies, because the camel ride closes at like 9:30.
This is the best moment of the episode. This is peak Amazing Race. Yes. So, okay. So for anyone who just listening and didn't go back and watch, you're missing out, but still. So at the pyramids, you have a detour. It is either rock and roll or hump and ride. Got it. So, okay. I wrote the task names are like super dirty this episode. Okay. So on rock and roll, you have to use an ancient technique of rolling logs, basically the length of, 2 football fields, or a football field at 600 pounds, so you get your next clue.
I feel like we'd be good at this, Brooke. I feel like it's in our blood. Something feels familiar about it.
I'm humping and riding personally. You have to travel just like a little ways and choose 2 horses and 2 camels, load carpets on the camels, and ride the horses and guide the camels to a carpet merchant for your next clue. Now, this closes at 5:30. It is 5:27.
7.
Charlotte and Myrna are the only team that even have a chance of humping and riding.
Oh.
I don't know what the merchants and the camel people start to leave. They have turned and they're going. Charlotte and Myrna whip out their whistles and they are like, we are here.
Why do they need to blow the whistle?
I would have.
Why do they have whistles?
So they have whistles to call the taxi.
Come on.
Oh.
Yeah.
Usually it's to call a taxi, but I don't think it's to be like, we're here. Hello, everybody. It's a dry hump season for Charlotte and Myrna.
In Egypt, the taxi was their horse. And the best part is, like, I feel like maybe for other teams and in other seasons, like, once they had started to leave, like, that would have been it. The detour is closed. In pure Charlotte and Myrna fashion, they are magic because they can get on any boats. They will get you to open the doors of an airplane. They will do anything and everything. They have turned around the cavalry and they get on the camels and they get on the horses, and they are the only team that can do this. I'm very animated. I cannot like overemphasize how much I love this moment of this episode. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
No, I feel like Charlotte and Myrna, they'd be perfect in like one of those Christmas specials when like they need to get the toy for the sick kid, but the toy store's about to close. Like they would put their foot in the door saying, no, you're going to be open for 5 minutes longer. Don't pack up the carpets just yet. That's our job.
I picture Charlotte climbing a tower of trampled women to get that last Tickle Me Elmo because her niece needs it.
And Myrna's just standing off to the side like, come on, Charlotte.
I can't do it.
I'm afraid of Elmo.
I also feel like the 3 feet rule wasn't in place just yet in this season because Myrna was yards ahead of my girl. But listen, I'm glad that it all worked out for them because, they're rising to the top of the pack here. And I'm hoping that they could potentially be the winners of this season.
Yeah, plus Charlotte got to ride a horse for the first time.
Was it her first time on a horse, did she say?
Yeah, she said that.
She
so
did.
It was really nice. And, you always roll the dice with animal tasks. The usual carte blanche rule on The Amazing Race is like, much like in show business, don't work with children or animals. Just
100% of the time I'm doing the animal task.
Really?
I love the thing is, animals know if you're an animal person. Like dogs can tell if you're a dog person. Like animals can tell. It's funny because it's the same pheromone you get. What'd you say?
The animals have told you this?
Yeah. So the same pheromone that you give out, like babies and puppies, like animals and babies can just tell if you're a baby person, if you're an animal person. If you treat them with respect, they treat you with respect. And so I personally, I love animals. Bryce knows, like every time I'm just like, I'd adopt that thing. I want to do this, like whatever.
Would you adopt those camels?
If I could have a camel and my outdoor terror, animals, I was going to say there's no animal, but there's one that they can all.
Are we going to come back in 6 months? Or you're going to be like Dr. Dooliting your apartment, right. Just like a camel on the outcropping, a penguin in the toilet.
Penguins. I love penguins.
Not the toilet. It's the baby.
There is animals there, and you will see later in the season there is a very, 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 very famous exchange with an ox. That's all I'm going to leave it at. But animals can be stubborn, and if you're not treating them with respect, they're not going to do what you want them to do. And so I feel like in this case, Charlotte and Myrna, they're like very happy-go. I mean, Myrna is the one who's dancing a tango with people after she's finished the task and wants to go play blackjack to win more race money. And
I also liked her when she was buying tickets with Marshall Lance, where she goes, Charlotte, dance, entertain us to occupy our time. Like, what is this relationship?
Marshall and Lance in that moment, they're like, they're just not our people. We wouldn't hang out with them. We wouldn't breathe on them. We wouldn't look at them in regular life. And then they're leaving. They're like, bye.
If I have to choose to hang out with, it's not Marshall and Lance. Okay,
no,
so everybody.
Charlotte's gonna dance for me. My God, dinner and a show.
Sorry. Okay, everybody else does rock and roll because they have to. Yeah. So Chip and okay. How do you feel about this, Bryce? You have Chip and Kim, or Chip, I would say, not Kim, who goes and helps Brandon because he's like, yo, can you come help me and do this part for me and with me? How do you feel about that?
So
because Brandon's on the team before. Like, he should already have help.
He should already have help. And the devout Christian Brandon that loves the Lord and loves his, he doesn't want to drink liquor.
But he hates crevices. Loves the Lord, hates crevices.
He hates crevices, except of the but a lot of different things. I just thought it was so interesting, the dialect in which Brandon chose to use in this moment. Chip.
You mean when he says what? Help a brother out?
Yo, Chip, can you help a brother out? I said, now I know who the hell is that? That's not Brandon.
Write that down.
That's Mick. But I said what? And also, Chip, what the hell are you doing? Like, kudos, first of all, kudos to Chip and Kim because they was killing this. Yeah. Okay, Chip was like, come on.
He kills everything. Right. He's amazing. And I think what it was is earlier on, Cammie and Carly were like, how could you do this to us? And I feel like ever since that moment, like Chip goes out of his way now to be like extra nice.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't want to be painted as not helpful.
No.
Which honestly, you don't need to be helpful.
Well, also though, I think the fact that it hasn't been used yet, but the fact that there's now a yield in every leg, like an actual tool that people can use to penalize you if they don't like you, incentivizes people like Chip to be like, oh yes, may I get your hat, sir? May I open the door for you, sir?
Yeah, but see, for me, and I hate to take it here, but I will, because as the diversity and initiative inclusion person of this season, right? You know, I'm the officer that they didn't hire yet, but I'm hired. Is that being as though that Chip and Kim are the only diversity we have here. I hate the fact that Chip feels like he has to be like, oh, sure, I can help you out, brother. And that kind of pisses me off. Also, another thing that I just wanted to point out in this episode was when they were doing the rock and roll, everyone's like, oh my God, like the Egyptians were so smart for them to create this and this. Let's just be clear. Those were slaves that were building those pyramids. They were doing a slave task. So I just like, you know, so just for a Brandon to be like, hey, brother, can you help me out? That kind of triggered me a little bit. But
absolutely.
Chip, what are you doing? We're here for $1 million. You're going to stop. And their thing was like off.
Yeah.
And it gets better.
Because
the team that has screwed over everyone that they have worked with is now asking for help. And then in the end, they don't even pay it off, okay? Jesus was asleep at this time. Satan was clocked in for the rock and roll. But okay, I digress, sorry.
Well, yeah, Satan loves rock and roll.
Right.
Devil's music. Okay, so anyway, Cammy and Carly are lucky they run into Chip and Kim because they show them where to go. And I believe this is where Chip's like, we're good now, right? Which also, you don't need to be good. You didn't do anything wrong. So enough is enough. You've paid it forward, paid it back, whatever. Enough. Like,
yeah. I also feel like it's a case where when you have to say it, it means that it probably isn't true.
Right.
It's implied. If you're bringing up like, oh yeah, and we're square now. If I'm that other person, I'm like, did you just do this to get on our good side? Like, listen, I'm glad you helped at the end of the day, but like, you're not doing this out of the kindness of your heart, which is different than like a competitive reality show where everyone's helping each other out basically to get ahead at the end of the day. But yeah, if someone in my regular life did something to help me out and say, oh yeah, we're even now, I feel like I'd be feeling a certain way in response.
Agree.
I would agree. I would also like to take this moment that when Chip wanted to square even with the twins, Brandon, Nikki, Satan, and Jesus took this opportunity to not wait for them, but to pass them and get to the pit stop first. Chip, I'm pissed at you.
Yeah,
Chip.
I wrote they should have waited for Chip and Kim. That's not cool.
It's Brandon, Nikki, Jesus, and Satan. What do you expect?
This is a pre-alliance era of the Amazing Race. Wait until season 10 where you can get teams waiting for each other to finish a task before
Is that
they
the
keep going.
backpack season?
That's the backpack.
Don't bother.
Yeah, it was basically an alliance of 3 teams that were all in the back of the pack. And spoiler alert, continued to be in the back of the pack every leg because they proceeded to all wait for each other after every task until everybody was done.
You wouldn't like that one. Although I think they go to some cool places. Is that where they go to Kuwait? That I feel like that one was
I think
cool.
that's where they
There's
go to Kuwait.
Fire challenge, like oil and fire.
Arun and Natalia would like that season. I think that was, you know.
Oh, Donald, where's
They've
your
got
cruisers?
47 lives. Okay, so let's see. Anything else that's important? No. Marshall and Lance complain. Great. So you have to make your way to the Sphinx to check into the pit stop. Colin and Christy are obviously first. They check in before the other teams get to the country. Like I'm not kidding.
Yeah, they're in the first half of the episode and then they're done.
And the most beautiful part about old school Amazing Race, and not even old school, like it was my season too, that you left in the order you came. But this season 5, it was always 12-hour pit stops.
Mm-hmm.
In later seasons, they changed the hours based on where you were. It was always, everyone had the same amount of hours, but it wasn't always 12. So the ridiculous part is because Colin and Christy check in so flippin' early, you'll see at the beginning of the next episode, their lead dwindles significantly because of operating times of certain locations.
Well,
so anyway,
the thing was their lead shrunk because of that when they got to the Tower of Cairo, because they came in at like 2 a.m. But then they cut the fast forward, which then gave them all that time back of like 3 hours.
I love it. Colin and Christy 1. Charlotte and Myrna 2. They give Phil a big hug. She's talking how we're dirty and smelly, whatever. I don't think Phil would hug most teams. I love Phil. He was very sweet and huggy. He did something very, very nice for me, like a behind the scenes thing.
And did he say, okay, now we're even?
We're square.
Because I would have felt a way about that. But the leg before the finale, he took his phone, someone's phone, and recorded a video for my brother, because I was like, my brother's such a huge fan. And it was myself and Scott and the final 3 teams being like, your sister just made it to the last leg of the race. Now, he didn't send it. I didn't get it to show.
Yeah, I was going to say, did he leak it to Reality Fan Forum afterwards?
No. I didn't even know about Reality Fan Forum. My parents, actually, my brother, found it while I was out there. I didn't even know to tell them about it. I didn't know about it at the time. And so they were watching me go. But when you get to really more in Asia, there's less people following you around. And my parents were like, we saw you in Greece and we thought you were gone because nobody saw you again for a while. So we assumed that you were out. Then you popped up again in South Korea. And we're like, oh my God, she's still there. But then they had heard things about teams that were already eliminated still running the last few legs. So like we weren't sure if it was you, like if you were really in or if it was fake, whatever. Anyway, long story short, too late. Phil's amazing if you're amazing to Phil. He's plus,
I would imagine that with the turtlenecks he was wearing in that desert, like that stink must have lingered in that poor sweater. It's woven into the fibers now. He smells like Myrna and Shmyrna and that muggy shaft.
And camels. Exactly.
I'm curious to know what that fragrance smells like, though.
No, I don't think you need to smell it. I feel like
it's all was it
smelling.
What do we call that odor? Hump and shaft.
To hump and shaft. Yes, exactly. I will see what I can find that I think is close to it. And Merry Christmas. Okay, so in third place, you have Brandon, Nicole, Jesus, Satan, the prodigal son, whatever. They should have waited for Chip and Kim. They didn't. Shame. I know.
And then there's a little bit of bickering back and forth.
Yes.
A little bit of bickering, right? Where like they have the beginning, like Brandon saying, "Oh, I'm gonna marry this girl. I hope there's room in the bed for 4." And then like they actually get into it a little bit, like sort of the way Colin and Christy did at the fast forward during Rock and Roll when he's just screwing it up and she's yelling at him. So they had this sort of reconciliation at the pit stop. But it was like a rare crack of the mask for them outside of the other stuff that Bryce was mentioning.
I wonder where they are now. Pause it really quickly.
Okay.
All right.
And then fourth, you have Chip and Kim, who should have been third, but Brandon and Nikki, tisk tisk. And then fifth, you have the king of complaining, Marshall and Lance. Sixth, you have Cammy and Carly. And then in last place, which I don't like, you have Linda and Karen. Okay, so the one thing I do like about this is you never get to know when someone is eliminated how far behind they really were unless it was so close that they get on the mat when somebody else is already on the mat. So the cool thing is, because they don't start in groups in season 5, we will actually get to see how far behind Linda and Karen were at the beginning of episode 6, because they'll show the actual start time. I want to say, and the actual answer to that is a lot. They were like the better part of 2 hours behind, because I just looked at my notes.
Well, yeah, because they were behind. Kimmy and Carly got ahead of them in the desert. Then, of course, there was that whole rigmarole of, the injury that one of them sustained. And so since a lot of it was on foot as well, and they couldn't do the task that allowed them to not be on foot, I would imagine they fell behind even further during the detour and the roadblock. So it really was like a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day for the Bully Moms after they caught up to the pack. Like, we thought they were dead in the water, but they found them at Frankfurt. And so you think, okay, they're caught up. It's a big bunching point, but then they fall right back behind again.
And the thing with them is, like, I love the Bowling Moms so much, not only because of their positivity and the fact that, like, even though Karen was hurt, they just powered through. Also because they are really the only team to see the genius and the beauty of Charlotte and Myrna. Everyone else is sort of on Team Colin and Christy, but the Bowling Moms have hitched their wagon to Charlotte and Myrna, which you will see, I believe, Bryce, in the next, I want to say the next episode, if not 6, then 7, but maybe it's 7. Anyway, if there's ever going to be a non-elimination, I'm happy it's here. Although this is, I'm going to say, the second to worst penalty that's ever been implemented during a non-elimination leg. Like just shy of give us all of your possessions and walk around with just a plastic bag and try and take clothes and what from other teams because you literally don't even get your backpack anymore. Like,
yeah, so that's what because in the first 4 seasons there was no penalty for non-elimination. It was just like, great, you landed on a lucky space, you still have another day. They wanted to create some stakes. So season 5 and I think 6 was when they just did the mugging, and then 7 and 8 and 9 was when they did give us everything, to the point where teams would run in thinking it was a non-elimination leg, covered in all the clothes they possibly could, in case they got robbed and they could only wear the clothes on their backs. Then seasons 10 and 11, they did marked for elimination, which was where you survived, but if you had to come in first on the next leg, and if you didn't, you got a 30-minute penalty. And then season 12, they finally found the quote-unquote perfect formula with the speed bump, and we haven't looked back since.
Mm-hmm. Speed bump is really great. I will say, I think it's 7. There are these brothers that come in just like in bathing suits.
Yeah, Brian and Greg, yeah.
They're like, you know what? If it's a non-elimination, we're on the next leg in our swimsuits. Like, they are just so funny. And I don't remember what season it was, but it was, her name's Gretchen. It was an older couple.
Yeah, it was the same season. It was the Boston Rob season.
Okay, because that's the one where they took all of your belongings then, because I remember her walking around with nothing but like a ShopRite plastic bag. Yeah. And he was getting clothes from other people on other teams. Like, they just felt badly for them. But I'm glad that this taking all your money thing didn't last for a long time, because there is nothing that ages worse than going to a country where the dollar is way stronger than your currency and begging locals, in this case, tourists, which is probably the smarter way to go, but locals, for money, and say, hi, we're on a reality TV show for $1 million. Here is our camera people and our very expensive production. Can we have some money? Because we can't get anywhere. Like, it didn't age well. So I'm really glad that changed. I'm done with that. That's it. I'm good.
Wait, Bryce, what did it feel like to see a non-elimination leg? I feel like you've barely seen any in your time as an Amazing Race viewer.
It was crazy, but I just was shocked that he was like, empty your pockets too. I'm like, well, why you gotta get what's in my pockets? That was kind of harsh to me, but it didn't matter to me. As long as my bowling moms were still there, I was really excited, because I was watching this on a plane as I was flying back into the United States, and this happened, and I was like sobbing a little bit, and the flight attendant came over to me, was like, are you okay? I was like, I'm just watching Amazing Race. But I was so happy that
20 years ago, this is the best.
And then you look up and it's actually Cammy or Carly.
Would you die? If he was like face down, like, I'm watching The Amazing Race. Like, I can't believe these twins like beat out my favorite team. And he looked up and it was one of the twins. Oh my God, that would be priceless.
Yeah, I wouldn't be as happy. But nevertheless, this was such an amazing episode. What you got? Do we have a here and now?
Oh. No, because nobody was eliminated.
No,
I didn't do. I don't have.
Do you want to tease anything about the bowling moms? What they're doing now?
And don't I? Maybe I don't know yet. Maybe they haven't got home in the next episode. I don't know. I know everything. This is the pause. This is the hospital. I'm sorry. One second. Good luck. Okay, so before we go, because we do have reality TV guru and reality TV royalty, Bryce Isaiah, on the same podcast at the same time, I don't get to talk that much about big things that are happening. And since Amazing Race has not yet announced that they're doing an all-winner season, Survivor season 50 is coming around, and it will be a returning players season. Now, I don't know everybody's
Really?
feelings.
I haven't heard this.
I would like to know what we can do to get Bryce back where he belongs, out on a beach, because honestly, brains, brawn, beauty, who cares? He's all of them. And I feel like the world was robbed of, like, gone too soon, but not forgotten. So what can we do? Mike, knowing what you know about everything that you do know, I do have a few people. My good friend Brian from Guatemala, also gone too soon. Like 20 years ago he did this, and I think Bryce, Brian, and Victoria, the first redhead to do it right. I'm really, really animated. Who do you think?
You're knocking over one of your 3 million pieces of art in your apartment.
Not the 3 million, not the prodigal son.
How did you know that? What do you think? What are your thoughts? What are you feeling?
Oh, as in like how to get the word out to bring Bryce back?
Do you think it's going to be too much new school? Do you think it's going to be a 3-tribe thing, new, mid, old school?
I mean, I think that I've been definitely talking about, listen, I was definitely tongue-in-cheek with me saying that I didn't realize. Of course, for those that don't know, I have been talking my ass off about Survivor even more so than usual. I've been doing a daily podcast series called the Survivor 50 Wish List, where me and a guest figure out who could and should come back for each season. I may or may not be talking with someone on this podcast about a season sometime in the next couple of weeks. But, you know, that certainly is something. Trying to get some voices out there, especially for these, like, pre-mergers, you know, because here's the thing. When you watch someone like Kelly Wentworth come back for Survivor Cambodia, that really unlocked to me this idea of, as Jeff said, you might cast people who cannot win the game of Survivor. But for the most part, so much of Survivor is, for lack of a better term, fluky in the way that a season goes. It might be a bad tribe designation, might be that you win or lose a certain challenge. It might be that
might be who has the most school spirit and they get stuck on a tribe by themselves in the worst twist of fate that I believe I've ever seen in Survivor. Poor Brian Corrigan in Guatemala was the only person left on his tribe because they were told to vote who is the most spirited. And this poor 21-year-old kid got stuck with nobody that he knew because I told him, you shouldn't be so spirited. It'll teach you to be such a positive person.
I don't think I've ever heard such energetic discussion about Survivor Guatemala since my last conversation with Jordan Kalish. I absolutely love it. But I do think that, in my opinion, my favorite format for Survivor 50 would be old school, new school, and probably do it second chances style. I've sort of expanded it out to being like, best of biggest characters to never win. I personally think we've seen a lot of the winners time and time again, as well as we just saw them 10 seasons ago. So I want to see a bunch of people come back from 1 through 39 versus some standout characters from 40 plus. And listen, what I will say is that if you're talking about like what work could we do to put Bryce more in the eyes of production, he's been doing a pretty damn good job himself with all the great work you've been doing with the Black Survivor Alliance, obviously with Bryce and Wen. I mean, you are definitely one of those pre-mergers that has been able to really pop in the eyes of the show. And so outside of like painting Jeff Probst's house purple so he always remembers the color and the person linked to it, keep doing what you're doing, baby girl.
I got paint. You want to go paint, Bryce? We can go paint a house.
I am very happy here on the Purple Pants podcast.
Survivor
has given me so much and so many.
We see the teleprompter, Bryce. We see the statement you're reading off of.
Survivor should give you $1 million. That is the thing that they haven't yet given you. And so, but just be honest. Like if they called,
I am really, right? As a fan, I am like, and I mean this with my whole heart, and my extra plane tickets that I bought on Amazing Race, that as a fan, I am so excited for 50. Like, I literally cannot wait for season 50. I think that is going to be so amazing. As a fan, I cannot wait to watch. I can't wait to see who is selected. I can't wait to see how it will unfold. Like season 40 for me, I was so excited. I was so amped knowing that I knew people out there. Like my winner was out there. My best friend, Sarah Lucina, Kim Spradlin, like Sophie. Was like so much fun. So as a fan, I cannot wait to watch season 50. I think it's going to be so epic.
Which you'll be watching from a first-person perspective on the beach.
Right, on the beach. Okay, whatever.
We get it.
Okay.
But yeah, for more on my thoughts on this, stay tuned. I believe next week I'll be talking about Survivor Cagayan, so Bryce will certainly come up for discussion one way or the other.
And where can anybody and everybody find you and hear you, all of your insightful chats on all of the things that you talk about, and not only reality TV show related, but all things TV related and such. Where do we find you?
Well, first off, thank you both so much for having me on. I'm so happy when we got to do this double date with Jess earlier on in the year. I'm glad I'm not coming to you from a hotel lobby this time around, but I love the chance to talk with the two of you, to watch Bryce discover an incredible season of The Amazing Race for the first time, and just getting to talk Amazing Race because, yeah, it's going to be a long time before we get to talk about it again proper. So any excuse to do so is a good one. But all this other reality TV stuff is ramping up. As was mentioned before, I am doing daily podcasts on Survivor 50. You can check that out on RHAP. Ramping up to Kagaya, and then, of course, a bunch of seasons after that. I'm also doing a weekly podcast called The Summer of Survivor, where it's me, it's Rob, it's Shannon, talking about just random Survivor subjects every week, whatever happens to fall our way. Big Brother is right around the corner, and I'll have coverage there, mainly when it comes in the form of interviews with those that have been evicted every week. But as Brooke, you're alluding to, another podcast that I'm doing is a podcast called We TV for Real on We Know Scripted TV on RHAP. Just trying to get my phrases right, where we bring on a member of the reality TV community to talk about a scripted show that is important to them. We had Bryce on our second ever first post-Rob episode to talk House of the Dragon. That was goddamn ridiculous. And if you loved all the euphemism talk in this podcast and this episode of The Amazing Race, you'll love our talk there, because we go into some pretty wild places. Brooke,
but that show is so low-key and not at all inappropriate. I don't know what you're talking about.
It is Brandon's favorite show. It is so chaste, no crevices to be found. Brooke, we are absolutely gonna pencil you in to have you on at some point too.
Yeah.
This past week I had Corey Wurtenberger on from Big Brother to talk about Lost, which came to Netflix, and that was a lot of fun. So,
do I get to pick my show?
Yeah, of course you do.
Really?
Yeah, we're not gonna have you talk about something that you're not passionate about, and I want to see more slapping artwork. Show that makes you do that. Exactly. So check all that stuff out, as well as a bunch of, I'm sure, random other things that I'm doing in written form, in podcast form. But I am online, social media, as well as on Cameo at a Mike Bloom type.
Ooh.
So
if you want a video from Mike talking about probably whatever you want.
Yeah, and literally anything you want. As you can tell from the Amazing Race podcast, I wear a lot of stupid costumes. I will wear one for you. I am shameless. I will print out cardboard cutouts of the final 3 teams from the Amazing Race 29 and pretend I'm Phil recording something for Brooke's brother. So I'll do anything.
Okay, I'm just going to go on Cameo.
Yeah, there you go.
Book that right now.
Pretty affordable price too, as far as Cameo
All right.
goes. So check that out.
This is awesome. Thank you so much. This was really just a joy. Bryce, thank you for setting this up. As always, you're gorgeous.
This is amazing. This has been our recap of Amazing Race Season 5, Episode 5. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week for Episode 6. Bye. I got to go down this deep shaft. See y'all later.
It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop. Pit stop. It's a pit stop.